Hello, my name's Joshua DeGroot, and I'm a painter and teacher and artist and parent living on the traditional territories of the Tla'amin First Nation in uh, what is colonially known as Powell River, BC, on the beautiful Sunshine Coast. And I'm wanted to talk a little bit about my research practice and introduce some of the works that I've been working on so far in my uh, first term of the Emily Carr Low Residency MFA program. I have, since becoming a parent, uh, really had time to think about my role as a parent and as a father, and have become interested in the question of what does it mean to be a father in the contemporary context. And that has placed me into uh, a space of questioning what has it meant to be a father in the past, and how have artists interpreted this idea in the past. And as I've thought about these ideas, what's come clear is that there is very little representation of fathers in art, being fathers, being and when I say that there's little representation of them as fathers, I mean there's little representation of them as fathers being emotionally connected and available, caregivers, and teachers and participants in the lives of their children in visual representation. Um, and so some of my research has been around what does it look like to be a father, um, and particularly what does it look like to be a father who is emotionally available and connected. Um, and this is being done in the context of what around questions of what are the mythologies of fatherhood? What do fathers, how do fathers perceive themselves? How are they perceived within the culture? And so, initial explorations in this have been um, delving into trying to just work from dreams and thoughts to express ways in which I experience fatherhood. And that's been, these images in particular very much reference historical works. I'm curious about how and why fathers holding their children are not as iconic as mothers holding their children. Um, and so representing and just doing the work of drawing myself in the position of being connected to my children, or drawing other fathers who are directly connected to me, like my brother and his children, as depicted in this image over here. This is also sort of being reflected in the idea of the life cycle of fatherhood. This is a piece that reflects on my own journey of grief. My father died of cancer this year, and so in that experience and in experiencing the grief of losing my father, of drawing that and trying to work through, well, what does grieving look like? We think about how much um, focuses on the lack of an emotional availability of men. And so this was a bit of an exploration of like, what does it look like to have an emotional life as a man, and how is that being represented, and what does that look like? Um, some of the exploration has just been in looking at myself and sort of exploring my own image and portraiture, um, and likewise doing that with my own children, and sort of thinking about who they are and what they look like, and just representing my own life. And in doing that, that's also been an exploration of what do we do as what is my life like with my kids. This has led to some exploration of sort of mythology, and we live in around forests here, and so this work is an exploration of what do I do with my children that is particularly um, relevant to the idea of guiding them and being with them. And so I'm interested in perhaps creating work that relates to this. This piece is intentionally sort of dark and has a bit of a mythic or a fairy tale quality to it. And again, I'm interested in how story and narrative of what a father is and what the roles fathers can play um, creates and generates a cultural identity for fatherhood and a way in which fathers have to um, think about themselves and who they are. I love mask making. I've always loved mask making, and so I'm curious about the role of masks within this. There's a beautiful layering of like the metaphor of the mask and how we wear our identities. And so I think it's very relevant to be creating and thinking about that in this context. This is a paper mache mask. I would hope that it would be built out into a different material. I've thought about bronze. I love the idea of that in the context of sort of its weightiness, the heaviness of that. And I also like the idea that these will be places and spaces where there could be another secondary component, like an audio component, where you could walk to the mask and the mask will have um, reflection, or you'll be able to hear the sound of either fathers talking about fatherhood or fathers talking about their own fathers. Um, Possibly a place to hear voices of partners talking about their experience of being in partnership and partnering with men in child raising, and as a way of bringing us a sort of like mirrored voice into the conversation of who we are, or bringing the voice of women into the conversation, and possibly other identities. I'm very aware that it's like white cis father makes art about being a white cis father, and I think this audio piece could be a place where there's some diversity of voice that could be brought into the space. On the wall here is a very, intentionally sort of counterpoint image, and that was done simply to sort of as a placeholder, but to think about what does this look like in the context of discussions of toxic masculinity? Is it necessary to have this voice in the space, or does the work stand by itself without bringing that these sort of like counter narratives that this work is in many ways fighting against? And so that's a little bit about where I'm going, and I believe I'm probably out of time. Thanks for listening.